Hi folks, HR Funk here. I have said for years that I have the best viewers on YouTube. In fact, I have the best viewers on the internet, and all of you out there continue to prove that over and over and over again. And one of the many ways you do so is by loaning me firearms for review that I might not otherwise have a chance to take a look at. And that's exactly what happened with the subject of today's video. This is the BRG 9 Elite 9mm pistol, and this belongs to Rich, who contacted me a couple of weeks ago and asked me if I would be interested in reviewing his handgun. And at the time, I was vaguely aware of the BRG 9 pistols, which is to say I knew they existed and I had heard of them, but really I didn't know much more about them other than that. So I told Rich, sure, I would be very interested in reviewing his pistol, and it turns out he resides very close to where I do. So Rich and I got together, he loaned me his pistol. That's going to be the subject of today's video, so let's take a close-up look at it, shall we? So if you purchase a BRG 9 Elite pistol, one of the first things you'll notice is it comes in this nice plastic hard case, which normally I wouldn't think was all that significant, except for the fact that this handgun has an MSRP of $249.99. And according to Rich, he actually found this handgun for much less than that price. So for that price, I wouldn't be surprised if it came in a paper bag. But when you open it up, as I will do here, you find that not only does it come in a nice case, but it actually comes with a lot of other things that you might not expect for a pistol in this price range. And I moved the camera out a little bit so you can see more of what comes in the case. First off, you get cleaning gear. There are 2 brushes, a bore swab, a double-sided toothbrush. There is some lubricant, what appears to be a lens cleaning cloth, although there's no optic included. You get 2 16-round magazines. Take note, a lot of other manufacturers, this pistol in this price range comes with 2 magazines. So all of you that only include 1 really are doing poorly compared to what we're getting with the BRG 9. It comes with 3 interchangeable back straps. There's a small, medium, large, and a magazine loader. So all of that with this pistol when you purchase it for that relatively low price. So after removing the pistol from the case, you can see that it is a polymer frame striker-fired 9mm handgun. It basically follows the same exact lines of the Springfield XD line. There are a couple of small cosmetic differences, but it is very, very similar to those Springfield pistols. Another thing that I can tell you, having just removed this from the box, is it is covered with a lot of oil. And I don't know if you can see this. I'll make a little bit of effort to bring this up to the camera here so you can see that this thing looks like before it was shipped, it was dunked in a bucket of oil. And I'm going to take a little bit of time to wipe this off before I go on with the rest of the review. All right. Now, hopefully I can go on with this review without feeling like the pistol is going to slip out of my hands or drip oil all over my countertop. In any case, I've switched it around to the left side now, and you can see the marking BRG 9 Elite. This handgun is manufactured in Turkey, and it's imported into the United States by the Buffalo Cartridge Company, which is located not too terribly far away from me in Findlay, Ohio. Starting the top-down look at the BRG 9 Elite, we can see that it has a 3-dot sight system. The rear sight is similar to a Novak, but it is not a Novak low-mount carry sight. The front sight has a contrasting dot. We can see the red dot on the front sight to contrast with the 2 white dots on the rear sight. So that's kind of nice. It also has a loaded chamber indicator that we can see here that is tactile. If I put a cartridge in there, which I'll do momentarily, you can actually feel that to know that there is a cartridge in the chamber, and you don't have to try to look in through a small hole drilled in the barrel hood or anything like that. And just to demonstrate that point, we can see I now have a dummy round in the chamber, and this is both a visual and tactile indicator that there is a round loaded in the chamber. The slide and barrel are machined from 4340 forged steel, and according to the website, it is double heat treated. The frame is a high impact polymer, and I'm not sure what high impact polymer means. Again, that comes directly from the website, but that is what the manufacturer states with regard to the construction of this handgun.
I'm not sure what the finish is on the metal. It looks like matte bluing. I don't think this is anything special. And again, in this price range, you can't really complain too much about the finish. It looks good, and it's certainly going to be functional enough for this handgun's intended purpose. There are both forward and aft slide serrations for cycling the slide by hand. And the serrations are functional. They seem to be easy to grasp and to manipulate the slide. Also, we can see the external extractor there, which looks very similar to a Smith & Wesson M&P every time I look at that. The pistol has a cocked striker indicator that we can see here, and when the pistol is fired, we can see that disappears. Now, under normal circumstances, if you have loaded this pistol and cycled around into the chamber, I don't think you're going to have to check to see if the striker is fired. But if you maybe aren't sure if you loaded around into the chamber, or you want to check just to be sure, you can check that, and obviously check the loaded chamber indicator to know that your pistol is cocked and there's a round in the chamber. Turning our attention to the left side of the pistol, we can see the slide stop, or in BRG terms, this is the slide release, and they call this the perfect touch slide release, and apparently it is intended to be easier to actuate than the slide release on other handguns. I've got some dummy rounds in there, and I'll try that out. And it seems to be fairly easy. And this pistol is brand new, so it may well get easier with time. I don't have a problem releasing the slide with other handguns, but it's certainly no more difficult with the BRG 9 Elite than it is with any of those. As I said, this is a non-ambidextrous slide stop, but there is an ambidextrous magazine release. So if you're a lefty, it's already set up for you. You don't have to do anything else. Now, I know some shooters don't care for the magazine release on the offside because of the chance that it could be bumped and release the magazine inadvertently by a seatbelt or what have you. So be aware of that if you don't like the ambi mag release. I don't know that there's any way to have just a single side mag release on this pistol. You're going to get the ambi release whether you like it or not. Also, on this side of the pistol, we can see the takedown lever, and on the website for this pistol it says it is a slide mounted takedown lever. I think what they meant to say was a side mounted, and that was a misprint, because when I saw that on the website and looked at the pistol, I thought that's obviously not the case. It's not mounted to the slide, but it is mounted on the side. So that was one thing I noticed when I was looking at the website for this pistol. The BRG 9 Elite has a flat face trigger with a drop safety that we can see here, and according to BRG, this is a single action trigger. So once this slide is cycled, the action is cocked and the trigger simply releases the striker. But it has the drop safety, it also has a grip safety, and if either one of those is not engaged, the pistol will not fire. If they are both engaged, it will fire. The BRG 9 Elite also does not have a magazine disconnect. So if the magazine is removed from the pistol, it will fire if the trigger is depressed and both safeties are disengaged. Moving on, we can see that the frame does have an equipment rail. The trigger guard is angled at the front, and there are some serrations if you prefer the finger forward hold that a few shooters still do. I don't use that one, but some people still do. The trigger guard is undercut here at the rear to give the shooter a higher grip on the pistol. It's a relatively low bore axis. We can see there is some texturing. This is not particularly aggressive texturing on the sides of the grip. There is a little bit of stippling here on the back strap, a little bit of stippling on the front strap, and we can see there are some shallow finger grooves. The pistol doesn't feel bad in the hand as I'm holding it. It doesn't feel quite as good as some of the other handguns that I have, but it's not bad. The magazine well is beveled to help with inserting the magazine, and between the bevel and the tapered top portion of the magazine, that inserts very easily. When it comes to dimensions, the BRG 9 Elite has an overall length of 7.36 inches. The barrel length is 4 inches. The height is 5.5 inches. The thickness at its widest point is 1.4 inches, and the weight is 30 ounces with the empty magazine installed. One difference between the BRG 9 Elite and most other firearms is the fact that it does not come with an owner's manual. You might have noticed when I had the box open a little while ago, there was no manual inside. For the owner's manual, you have to go to the BRG website, and at first I thought this is a little odd because I always like to review the owner's manual when I get a new handgun in that I'm not familiar with, just to see if there's anything in there that I need to know about specific to that particular handgun. But when I went to the website, I thought the owner's manual that they had there was very detailed. It has great full color pictures. It goes through instructions for everything you could ever want to do with this handgun. So in the end, I ended up having a pretty favorable view of the online owner's manual. And in fact, if you ordered one of these from an online retailer while you were waiting for it to arrive, you could review the owner's manual ahead of time. And then when it gets there, you would be all ready to start to work with it. So in the end, like I said, that ended up not being too bad. And the BRG 9 Elite does have a limited lifetime warranty for the original owner, but it's void with the use of hand-loaded ammunition, so keep that in mind if you're a hand loader. So how about the trigger quality on the BRG 9 Elite? When the safeties are disengaged and the trigger is depressed, we can see it's moving, and then it fires. There's not a real distinct stopping point like we get with most pistols. Most pistols, you start your trigger pull, there's a little bit of free travel, then you hit a point where the trigger stops and movement beyond there fires the pistol. This is kind of a long, creepy, semi-heavy trigger, so it is not the greatest trigger pull in the world, which surprises me since BRG describes this as a single action trigger. And with the grip safety and the drop safety, I would expect that once those are disengaged, you would meet a stop and then have a very light, very good let off on the trigger. And that's really not what we're getting with this. I'm going to weigh this momentarily and we'll see exactly where the trigger is breaking, but I can tell you the overall trigger quality is not that good. And we can also see there's quite a bit of over travel there after the trigger does break. And here we go. Let's see if I can get a trigger pull weight on the BRG 9 Elite. And it did break at under 5 pounds. I was a little surprised by that. I thought it would be heavier. It feels heavier, but apparently that's just because there is such a long pull before the trigger breaks. I might add it a little farther down on the trigger bow. Try to get it in the middle of the trigger this time, which is difficult to do on a trigger with a drop safety. So 4 pounds 13.3 that time. We give it one more, get a 3 pull average. And 4 pounds 12.0 ounces that time. So the average comes out to 4 pounds 11.4 ounces. So the trigger pull weight is not really all that bad. But like I said, the quality is not all that good. But I should probably stress that I'm being very critical of that trigger, and I have to keep in mind this is a $250 pistol MSRP. So for that price, if the trigger works, I can't complain too much. And last but not least, here's a close-up look at one of the 2 magazines that comes with the BRG 9 Elite. It appears to be a pretty good quality magazine. We can see the witness holes in the back. This is a 16 round magazine, and there is a witness hole for, I believe, all 16 rounds. There is no marking to indicate who manufactured the magazine other than it just shows BRG that you saw there. It looks to me kind of like a Mekgar, but that's just a guess. So that's going to do it for the up-close look at the BRG 9 Elite 9mm pistol. Now let's head off to the range and see how it shoots. And as you can see, I've arrived out on the range with the BRG 9 Elite to do some shooting with it and see how it's going to perform. The only thing I did in preparation for coming out here was just run a cleaning patch down the bore. I'm not worried about lubricating this pistol because I think it has more than enough lubrication to begin with. So I'm going to get things set up. The first thing I'm going to do is an accuracy test from the bench at a distance of 15 yards. Let's see how this pistol does. And the ammunition for this accuracy test is going to be some MagTech 147 grain jacketed hollow points. Let's see how they do in the BRG 9 Elite from this distance of 15 yards. So that's interesting. With the very first cartridge on top of the magazine, and I have it completely loaded with 16 rounds, the MagTech jacketed hollow point is not wanting to feed up the feed ramp. See if I can get you a close-up of what's happening here. And hopefully you can see that. That hollow cavity is catching, or appears to be catching, on the bottom of the feed ramp. So I'll see if I can clear this. And that doesn't seem to be helping. Doesn't appear to be any damage to the bullet itself. See what happens if we download it by one round. Take a little bit of pressure off the magazine spring. And now it loads. So that could be a break-in issue with these magazines. They might need to be cycled a few times until the spring starts to take a little bit of a set, and that problem might go away, but that very first cartridge did not want to feed from a full magazine. Now back to the accuracy test. So first, the good news. After downloading the magazine by one round, the rest of those jacketed hollow points ran just fine. So again, I think that's probably a break-in issue that will go away as those magazines get some use. Or I should say the magazine springs as they get some use. Turning our attention to the group, it's not the greatest that I've ever seen from that distance of 15 yards. We've got some vertical stringing going on here. This is about about 3 inches high, maybe not quite, maybe more like 2 3/4 inches center to center. And we've got going down and diagonally about 2 1/4 inches center to center that way. And also we can see the entire group is off to the left. And in looking at the rear sight, it does appear to be off to the left. I'll try to get this up where you can see it. And I don't know if you can see that or not. It looks like it's out of focus. And I don't know if I can get it in focus. But the rear sight does appear to be a little bit off to the left. In any case, we'll move on now to some more defensive-oriented drills, and we'll see how the BRG 9 Elite does in those. So next up will be some controlled pairs from a distance of 5 yards. But before I start shooting, I want to try another type of ammunition in this magazine. And again, I've got 16 rounds loaded in the magazine, so it's loaded to full capacity. This is Blazer Brass 124 grain full metal jacket ammunition. And let's see what happens. And that chambers with no problem. So it was something just associated with the hollow point ammunition that I was trying to shoot before. And again, I think that's probably going to get better as time goes on and these magazine springs get so used. So anyway, that's out of the way. Let's take a look at how this pistol does on the controlled pair drill. So looking at the results of the controlled pairs, it's not bad. The first two shots were very good. The next two shots I pulled a little bit low, and I pulled one of my third shots low as well, or one of the shots from my third pair I pulled low as well. And I think part of that has to do with the length of that trigger pull that I was talking about back in the shop. It doesn't feel all that heavy, but it's just such a long pull, it kind of throws off my timing a little bit, and I'm pulling those shots a little bit low. Now, obviously, I'm not accustomed to shooting this handgun yet. I'm going to work on that as I continue to move on through the drills, and the next drill up is going to be failure drills from a distance of 7 yards. Yeah, I think I did a little bit better job that time managing that trigger. My body shots, all but these two, are right in here, so not bad at all. And by the way, this is another one of my Targets Online targets, and you might recall Targets Online is now my target sponsor for the channel. And I meant to bring some blue painter's tape out here to cover up these shot holes, and of course I forgot it. So that's why I'm using the tan stickers, and a couple of those fell off down here. So these were from the previous drill that I did. These are the ones that I just fired on the failure drills. The headshots are all looking pretty good up here. Now I am starting to favor the right side of the target as I'm shooting these drills, because I know from shooting the accuracy drill to begin with that that rear sight is off to the left. So I'm actually holding over in this area for the body shots and over in this area for the headshots. And that compensation seems to be working pretty well. Again, these two shots are a little low and to the left, and that's just me not quite meshing totally with that trigger yet. And next, it's back to a distance of 15 yards from the target, and from that distance, I'll be firing 5 rounds into the body of the target, and this is going to be at a medium shot pace. So let's see how it goes. Folks, instead of trying to continue to put stickers on here that are going to just fall off as I shoot the target, I'm going to move my point of aim up to the 8 ring here. I'm actually going to hold right in this area here to compensate for that rear sight. So these shots are intentionally going to be up in this area, not down here with the others. It's cold out here today, which is why these stickers don't want to stick. So that's why I'm just going to try to use this method rather than trying to keep working with those stickers. So not bad on that 5-shot drill from 15 yards. The shots are a little bit off to the left, so I wasn't compensating quite far enough holding off to the right, but the group size isn't really bad. I've got one shot that went a little bit high, but then again, I was holding up in this area, so if I dropped my point of aim down into this area, this would have been a pretty respectable and pretty effective group. So now I'm going to try the same drill, but this time it'll be from a distance of 25 yards. And this time around, I'm going to keep this elevation for my hold, but I'm going to be holding off over in the area of this left shoulder. Wow, not bad at all from that distance of 25 yards. Now I was holding pretty much right on this white line by the shoulder, as I was firing off those shots, but that is a very good group from that distance of 25 yards. Again, if I was holding dead center down here on the X, those would probably all at least have been in the 9 ring. So I'm very impressed by that accuracy that I'm seeing. So whether I like the trigger or not, that pistol is definitely shooting very, very well. Folks, after the performance we've seen so far, I am really eager to see if the BRG 9 Elite is a 20-foot tack driver. I've got a tack in the target. I have 3 rounds loaded in the pistol. Let's see how it does. I was holding right beside it to the right, and I need to hold over just a little bit farther. I can't get much closer, folks. One more try. Yes! On the 3rd try, the BRG 9 Elite is a 20-foot tack driver. Folks, my final thoughts on the BRG 9 Elite are going to be pretty brief. And essentially, my thoughts are, for an MSRP of $249.99, I'm not going to complain about one darn thing about this handgun. I think it performed very, very well out here. It performed better than a lot of more expensive handguns that I've tested over the years. To Rich, I would say what I would recommend is give this rear sight a couple of taps to the right, go out and shoot the heck out of it to give it a good break-in, and make sure you test whatever your carry ammunition is going to be for good functional reliability. And in the end, I think you got yourself a very good handgun for a very good price. Thanks again for letting me test it. And that's going to do it for the video today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you purchase anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 5% off your purchase from Optics Planet. Also remember the new discount code from Hot Munitions. If you go to Hot Munitions, you can use my discount code there, which is HRFUNK10, and that'll save you 10% off your purchase from Hot Munitions. And last but not least, don't forget the Target sponsor. They are brand new to the channel. Check out Target's online and see if they have anything that's going to meet your needs. See you next time, folks. Until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.